Our third speaker tonight is Eliza Cummings. Eliza, who is from Denver, Colorado, moved to New Zealand in October 2018. Despite coming from an extremely landlocked state, her first marathon swim was in Cape Cod, swimming the 20 or so miles from Plymouth to Provincetown in Massachusetts, a stretch of water that teems with very large-toothed wildlife. Eliza has also spent quite a lot of time in lakes and rivers, including 2 editions of the Scar Swim Challenge, the Round Manhattan Swim, and a particularly notable 27, hours in Lake Taupo that kept many people obsessively refreshing the tracker all day and all night. She's also an exceptionally good, I meant to say fantastic. She's a fantastic level 3 socially distanced swim bubble friend with whom I've spent some very chilly, happy and windswept hours swimming laps between Seatoon Beach and Worcester Bay during the time of trouble last year. So I would like to welcome Eliza to the platform.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you so much for that introduction, Karina. Karina is actually the first person who ever took me on an open water swim here in New Zealand, so doubly thank you for that. Honestly, it's really inspiring to be in a room full of such incredible people and swimmers tonight, and I really am truly humbled, especially as a transplant to New Zealand, to even be given the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. So, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Tonight, I'm here to talk about my attempt to swim 80 kilometers north to south, back to north, across Lake Taupo. When I decided to move to New Zealand, I knew I wanted to swim the Cook Strait, but as soon as I realized there was this big, beautiful lake in the middle of the North Island, I quickly decided I wanted to swim that first. As Karina mentioned, I'm from a landlocked state in the United States, so lakes are really near and dear to my heart. Originally, I thought I would swim a single, like most rational people do. But I actually, in the 6 months leading up to when I moved to New Zealand, I was lucky enough to be at a dinner where Lynn Cox spoke. And I remember Lynn saying that you should only attempt the swims that you are unsure you can complete. Because if you know you can finish, what's the point? What's the challenge in that? Up to that point, I had completed a handful of marathon swims ranging from 10 kilometers up to 45 kilometers. And as I was thinking about swimming Lake Taupo, I knew that I could do a single. I knew if I trained and prepared properly that I would be able to complete it. So I started thinking about doing a double because I really wanted to do a swim that I did not know I could finish. When I had finished my previous marathon swims, I always finished feeling like I could have swum longer, I could have gone further. So I really wanted to find out what my physical and mental limits really were. So that's originally why I decided to do the swim. But actually a few weeks before the swim, my babichka, my grandmother, passed away. After my grandmother passed away, the swim took on a completely different meaning for me. She was a really fierce, tenacious, and tough wahine. She was actually an architectural engineer who fled Czechoslovakia in 1968 as a young mother of 2, escaping after the Warsaw Pact invasion. She was also very competitive and very athletic. She was a very talented tennis player and skier, and even well into her 60s, she was competing in tennis tournaments, and she would often win. She also, though, had emphysema, and she swore all the way to the day that she died that it was genetic and had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that she smoked from ages 16 to 65. She died in early March 2019 and from respiratory failure at the age of 80. After she died, like I said, the double attempt took on a completely different meaning and purpose for me. I wanted to do the swim not only to test my physical and mental capabilities, but I also wanted to do it to honor and commemorate her life. The swim was 80 kilometers and she died at the age of 80, so I really thought about how each kilometer could represent each year of the life that she lived. She always wore red when she was going into a tough tennis match that she wasn't sure she could win, and so I made sure I had a red suit for my swim. For the swim, I set a lot of process-oriented goals, which I'm sure this room is full and understands why we do that. So for me, the first goal of my swim was to have fun and to really enjoy the adventure. The second was to beat my longest time spent in the water, which up until that point was only 9 hours and 37 minutes. Third was to swim for 12 hours, and fourth was to swim for 24 hours. Of course, the ultimate goal was to finish the swim, but as we all know, there are so many factors that go into whether or not we will finish, whether it be weather, conditions, creature interference, sudden injury or illness, and of course, other unforeseen circumstances. But going back to what Lynn Cox said, it is exactly the uncertainty that we will finish that makes marathon swimming a rewarding and worthwhile endeavor. The start of my swim was really phenomenal. The water was like glass, and I felt quite fast and steady and smooth. I had to keep reminding myself to swim slowly, and I quickly settled into a nice steady pace. The only major hiccup in the first half of my swim was this really horrible sharpshooting pain in my right hip flexor, which I'd never felt before. But and over the course of the swim, it really impeded my ability to kick. But as anyone can attest who's seen me marathon swim, I rarely kick anyway, so it didn't matter too much. Phil gave me some great recommendations, but nothing seemed to really work. As night fell, the water got choppier. It was quite an overcast night, so no stars to really be seen. But despite the small things that weren't perfect, I was really reveling in the swim. I was really loving every 30-minute period I had between feeds. I was really overall happy and positive and quite focused. I could also really feel my babushka's spirit with me and the mana of that lake. I felt very confident that I was going to finish. While I was training, I did quite a bit of visualization around the swim, and particularly I did a lot of visualizations around the turnaround because I thought that was going to be by far the hardest part. You know, after you swim the entire length north to south, you have to get out, look back, and force yourself to get back in to keep swimming. When Phil told me I was about 800 meters from the turnaround, I was shocked, and I was so excited because I knew I was going to come in just under 12 hours. I wasn't tired, I wasn't sore, I was hungry, however. Hungry in two senses of the word. First, I was really looking forward to the bean chili that I knew was my midway meal. But second, I was really hungry to keep swimming. I was hungry to finish the challenge I had set out before me, and I was hungry to finish. Around when the sun began to rise, I started to feel I had a sore throat. This is the part of the story where if there had been an omnipresent narrator, they would have said, and this is, little did she know that this was going to be her ultimate demise. Sore throat or not, I kept swimming. Up until that point, I had been holding a pace of around 3 kilometers per hour, which later I was told that only 5 swimmers in history have averaged more than 2.8 kilometers per hour for a current neutral swim of that distance. Of course, most notably on that list is the ultimate legend, Philip Rush. During his double topaz swim, just so everyone knows, he averaged 3.5 kilometers per hour. Amazing. In any case, it actually wasn't until Phil told me that I was halfway back on my second lap when I started to think, oh no. Based on my previous pace and time of the first lap, I should have been closer to the finish than I was. He told me, you're halfway back, you have 20 kilometers to go. An hour later, he told me you have 18 kilometers to go, and I can only imagine the look I had on my face. I was quite shocked, and I knew something wasn't right. But interestingly, my stroke felt the exact same. I didn't feel fatigued, I didn't feel tired, and yet I just knew that I wasn't swimming as fast as I had been before. And I was thinking, maybe this is just what happens when you've been swimming for almost 24 hours. My throat kept getting more sore, and my breathing started to become labored. At a feed, I remember Mike and Phil telling me to remember to inhale and exhale fully, and for whatever reason, I really just couldn't. We kept on going, slowly making progress, getting closer and closer to the finish. It was within sight, and I was quite determined. In the final parts of my swim, I remember some things very distinctly, and to be honest, the rest of it is a bit of a blur. I remember looking at Phil and Mike on the IRB and thinking they were really annoyed that they were still on the lake and that they were really mad at me. Little did I know at the time that paranoia is actually a symptom of hypoxia, which basically means that you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, which is what was happening. I also remember that I started choking and I would turn my head to breathe and nothing would make it to my lungs. At the time, I thought I was having weird little sudden onset mini panic attacks, which was preventing me from breathing normally. And I kept saying to myself, just keep calm and keep swimming. At this point, Phil and Mike were already having the very difficult conversation of deciding whether or not I needed to be pulled out. Phil told me a few times, this is your last chance. If you can't keep swimming, we can't keep going. Phil looks uncomfortable right now. I have absolutely no memory of this next part, but I've been told the final straw was when I popped my head up, pointed at the beach with the lights and said, I just need to swim that way. Mike and Phil looked relieved for a moment. I put my head down and promptly started swimming in the exact opposite direction. I remember Mike physically pulling me into the IRB, and the next thing I can remember is being wrapped up in blankets, sitting on a chair back at the dock on the big boat. What none of us realized at the time was that my sore throat at sunrise was the beginning of my throat actually swelling up, leading to eventual hypoxia, which is essentially not getting enough oxygen to my brain or to any of my muscles. That's why I was swimming slower. In the end, I did not finish the swim I set out to finish. But I absolutely accomplished what I had set out to do. I swam for over 27 hours and swam 79 kilometers. I wanted to do the swim to test my physical and mental limits. I know that had my throat not closed up, I would have finished that swim. I know that I can mentally now handle swimming for that long, and physically I know, in fact, that I can swim for further and longer. I found great comfort in the fact that my grandmother, my babushka's life ended due to respiratory failure, and my swim, in fact, ended essentially for the same reason. I think everyone in this room can recognize and acknowledge that marathon swimming is not an individual sport. It is well and truly a team sport. So last and most importantly, I want to say a massive namahi nuhi, a massive thank you to everyone who helped me accomplish this wild swim. To my Wellington swimming family, thank you for welcoming me with open arms and for being with me every step along the way in my journey. To Mike and Phil, thank you for your incredible expertise and guidance and support. And a final thank you to someone who's not in the room tonight, but my partner, Catlin. During my swim, Catlin was on the IRB for 25 out of the 27 hours. And in the months leading up to the swim, she cooked every single meal, dropped me off and picked me up from the pool every single day, took everything off my plate physically possible so I could have ample time to prepare and decide to do this swim. It was actually on the swim that I decided to ask her to marry me. When you're swimming for 27 hours, you have a lot of time to think. And I just remember so distinctly looking at her sitting on the IRB hour after hour and having overwhelming clarity that I wasn't just looking at my partner, but I was looking at my future wife. And I really could not have done it without her. She has always been my greatest teammate, cheerleader, and support crew member, so thank you to her. Thank you all again for the opportunity to speak tonight. It really is so inspiring to be here with all of you. I cannot wait to track and follow along for all the future swims this incredible group of people will do. So Nā mihi nuhi, congratulations on incredible swims. Thank you so much to the legends who have come before me and come before us, who have paved the way for us to be able to continue the legends of marathon swimming. Congratulations to everyone, and thank you again.